Hello and welcome to Raj Sabha TV. You're watching discussion today with your host Rajat Kane. Now, in this episode, we'll take up the subject of foreign policy towards our neighbors, especially in the light of our initiative, Neighbors First. Now, one of the foremost elements of India's foreign and security policy is characterized by Neighborhood First initiative. Ever since assuming the mantle of the country in 2014, Prime Minister Modi has been investing strategic and also personal capital to build and shape our ties with the neighbors. The initiative also aims at forging relationship of mutual respect and mutual interest. Well, not just in South Asia, the Prime Minister also took special interest in reaching out to our partner countries, especially in West Asia, Southeast Asia and East Asia, and the results of this initiative has been evident and they've been successful. Now, India's ties with neighbors have improved significantly and its standing has also taken an improvement. Now, the only exception, however, to this entire initiative and the change in ecosystem around India's ties with its neighbor happens to be Pakistan, given Pakistan's agenda of fueling terrorism, and lately with China, given the latter's bid to unilaterally alter the status quo at the line of actual control, or the LAC. Well, the talks between the two neighbors, two countries, India and China, is on. They are both trying to diffuse the tensions diplomatically and at the level of the government. Now, so what are Neighborhood First initiatives succeeded in drawing strategic results, and what will be the contours of our ties with the neighbors, especially in the post-COVID pandemic world? To discuss further on this issue, we're joined with our guest, Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, who is now a distinguished fellow with CLAWS, CLAWS, and former Ambassador Veena Sikri. Thanks, both of you, for joining us in the show. Well, this is fairly important given in the context of the latest address by Union Defence Minister at National Defence College, Mr. Rajnath Singh, where he laid emphasis on four broad principles that are likely to guide India's quest for national security in the future. Now, these happens to be territorial integrity, stability, interests beyond borders, and on the interconnected globalized world where everyone is a partner and every policy of each country has bearing on the other. So my question to you, Ma'am Veena Sikri, you think that the Defence Minister would have put it even better, or I mean, this is the best way to actually project our Neighborhood First initiative, that we are concerned about our policy and of course we are all world together?
I think I must appreciate and congratulate our Defence Minister for his excellent statement yesterday. It was a very important occasion, the 60th anniversary of the National Defence College. And he gave a very detailed and very explicit expose of India's defence and security policy. And certainly when you look at defence and security policy, the first impact is in the neighbourhood. Because that is where, the defense, your borders meet the borders of other countries and where your primary interests lie. So I think he was very explicit in talking about India's desire for peace and that this is very important. We do not want differences to become disputes. We do not want any differences with our neighbor. But when we say that we want peace, this desire must be reciprocated. And if it is not reciprocated, as we have seen in the case of very specifically at the border with China, he did not take China's name, but clearly China has tried strongly to disturb the status quo at the LAC, and of course there is Pakistan. We must be able to deter war. So he has given a different spin on the traditional saying, which is very old, which says, if you want peace, prepare for war. Here he is saying that we want peace and we are willing to negotiate for peace. We are willing to negotiate in good faith. But in order to strengthen our ability to maintain peace, we have to equally strengthen our ability to deter war, to deter any undesirables, any of our neighbors who may have the wrong notions. Now, side by side with this ability to deter war, there are some other factors that come in. Right. One is you need to strengthen your own economy. Now, this is vital. When you say strengthen your economy, you're talking about all sectors, including the defense sectors. Your ability to deter war depends on your own preparedness from within. Are you self-reliant? Do you have Atmanirbharta? Those are very important questions. The second aspect is that your internal challenges. When you're looking at external threats, the counter of external threats is internal challenges. And sometimes neighbors who want to create external threats try to do it through internal challenges, as we have seen in the case of terrorism, which has been adopted as a state policy by Pakistan. And we have terrorism in Kashmir, we have terrorism throughout India, and this is indeed a very major problem. So we have to be able to face this challenge. We have to have the strength of facing this challenge. And part of this also internal challenges is the ability to discuss, to negotiate with elements who are dissatisfied or aggrieved, providing justice to them, giving them development, being able to go more than halfway to meet what they are saying. And the most critical element of all this, when you're talking about war, is developing good neighborly relations, developing friendship on the basis, as you said, of mutual interest and mutual respect with all our neighbors. And certainly in this area, we have seen in all the areas that I have mentioned that we have had significant progress in recent years. We have seen with our neighborhood, with Bangladesh, with Bhutan, with Sri Lanka, with Maldives, with all these countries, we have tried our best to build relationships, overcome differences, even with Nepal, where there has been a problem. Our Chief of Army Staff is there right now, and he received the honorary rank of a general in the Nepal Army. So obviously, with all these combined efforts, with Bangladesh, we have built up a very strong economic and political relationship, a good understanding. And this is very good. I would include Myanmar in this, where we had a very high-level visit recently, and we've had, we have given a submarine to Myanmar as well. So I think that this combination of, number one, neighborhood first policy, make every effort to develop good relations with your neighbors. We have good relations with Afghanistan, with Pakistan. They came for Prime Minister's first inaugural in like 2014, and after that we have had a huge problem with them. But we still have shown good intentions, but the ability to deter war is important. We have with Sri Lanka, we've had high-level visits and good relations with the new government. With the Maldives, even now, as we speak, a visit is undergoing. So this is one aspect of good relations. Internal economic growth, economic strength, self-reliance. This has been during the pandemic. Even this has been the underlying motto on which we are doing our preparations. And as part of the pandemic, we are reaching out to the same neighbors and reaching out across neighbors in the Indian Ocean. I must here mention the strategy of the Indo-Pacific Initiative, the strategy of the Quad. Now, these are very important inputs because in order to strengthen our own internal abilities and to face any external threats, we are reaching out to like-minded countries, with India, Japan, Australia, and USA in the Quad, and we are reaching out to ASEAN. We are reaching out on the Indo-Pacific Initiative to a very large number of countries. And in all these, we are finding a good resonance. We are finding a good response. We are finding a good understanding. And wherever there is understanding, we move ahead. We take it to the next level. We develop further cooperation. We do joint drills, the Malabar drills, as you know. And if there isn't an understanding, you continue the dialogue. You see what to do. I think this combination has been a big factor of deterrence from those countries in our neighborhood who want to take advantage, who seek to change the status quo.
Right, ma'am. We'll come back to you. Let me just start with Lieutenant General Sharma as well. Mr. Sharma, just continuing where Madam Ambassador left. Now, the broad four contours that Union Defence Minister emphasized on India's foreign policy. Now, where do you see our foreign policy being shaped by it? And also, we have seen that, traditionally, we have seen that foreign policy is driven more by the factors concerning Pakistan and China. So now, are we seeing a vital shift from that? Are we expanding further, especially vis-a-vis the Neighbourhood First initiative?
Thank you, Rajat, for inviting me. I found the statement given, the speech given by Raksha Mantri yesterday at the Diamond Jubilee of NDC path-breaking in many ways. He has reached out in it, understanding what China has done without naming China, and understanding what Pakistan is all about. He has reached out to all other neighboring countries, saying that we are a region as one, and we want to move together, which gives out a feel that we are taking the neighboring countries as equal partners, as sovereign nations. There is no thought process which existed earlier of being big brother or a larger nation which tends to force its will on the neighbors. No. On the contrary, feel that one got in the speech is that we are a region as one, and we will develop together as one entity. And I found that very interesting as a formulation that brought about by Honorable Raksha Mantri's yesterday's speech. You see, half the time in the course post-independence, India has been accused in this manner of being superimposing its will on our neighbors and treating them as, we acted like a big brother. So that, I think, is a very good change. Let's talk about connectivity and changes and the culture. All these are very important now in the context of what China is doing in all our neighboring countries. And if you see the Dragon's presence in Myanmar or in Bangladesh, in Nepal, in Sri Lanka, in Maldives, and the deep pockets that China is showing, this is a message of saying that, we do not want to fleece you. We do not want to take advantage like the Chinese are doing to any one of your nations. We wish to help you out as a part and parcel of one entity, that is South Asia. And I found it very interesting to say that we wish to do so. I think there is progress in our relationship with all these countries in this manner. Specifically, for example, Bangladesh, if we are going ahead with, we sorted out the border issues which have been festering for such a long time. With the Myanmar, we have gone about given a submarine recently, as also the Kaladan multimodal project. Included with the Bangladesh, what we are establishing through Chittagong, the connectivity across to Tripura, the multimodal connectivity and the Myanmar connectivity. All these things, I think, are being brought about in a manner to state that we understand what the Chinese are doing, but we are doing our bit in our own manner, in a very focused way. We are not wanting to impose ourselves. It's not that we get labor from India to do the work there. The Chinese are getting labor from there. So, the whole culture of how we are approaching our neighbors other than Pakistan and China has been dramatically shifted in the course of last few years. And I find, I think there is much progress to be seen. And I would also refer to Nepal. There has been much said about Nepal and about Nipu Lake and about what has brought about in Nepal in the manner of Chinese Confucius institutes and large number of study centers and the railway line that is coming from Lhasa and the roads being built. All that is fine. We have 8 million Nepalese working in India. We have a large constituency of goodwill between Nepalese people and Indians. Whatever the government might decide to do, Nepalese government might decide to do, that goodwill that exists between two nations cannot be lost in the course of few pinpricks that has happened here. I think there is a great amount of poise and a great amount of delicacy of our dealing with our neighbors, which has come to light over last few years.
Lieutenant General Sharma, let me just ask you one question here. As you mentioned that Chinese have often flaunted their deep pockets. So will that propensity of Chinese pose challenge for India's foreign policy in the longer run, especially like a neighborhood first initiative?
Look, one has to understand how the Chinese work. Most of these countries has got one company called CCCC, which has actually made inroads in Myanmar, in Sri Lanka, and also in Bangladesh, which is making the ports or making the infrastructure which is coming across there. So from the managers to supervisors to workmen, all are being brought and imported across from China. So when Chinese have deep pockets and they give the money to those countries to build the infrastructure, willy-nilly the money goes back to China through their corporations called 4C. So what we are doing, if we are opening lines of credit, we are not imposing ourselves. So, the nations have to understand that we are not creating a debt burden on these countries as part of a lines of credit or as part of a developmental processes. So in long-term analysis, the work being done on connectivity, on building up cultural relationships, or in the economic manner is more of a relationship that comes through centuries between us, which the Chinese do not have. So I think our approach is right. Only thing is we should not impose ourselves and become, 80% of the GDP belongs to India. That fear that comes into minds of these nations must not be there. The fear needs to be allayed.
Right. Ambassador Veena Sikri, let me ask you one question here. Like we know that terrorism is an important factor here. We've been the victim of cross-border terrorism. Now, how far the terrorism poses challenge at the regional level? Because largely for the regional stability and for stability of our own selves, we require stable neighborhoods which are free from any terrorist activities.
Yes, I think again the question is building up a relationship of trust with one's neighbors. And I can refer here to Bangladesh because I do know that when, for example, we had previous Prime Minister Khaleda Zia as the Prime Minister, there was a tremendous problem in the bilateral relationship because at that time, the government of Bangladesh was supporting whatever Pakistan was trying to do through terrorism.
Right.
And a lot of the terrorist incidents had a route through Bangladesh. They were coming through Bangladesh into India because of the coordination between the governments of Bangladesh and India at that time. But even at that time, we used to talk to the government of Bangladesh with great sincerity and say, look, terrorism is something which hurts everybody. It's hurting India, but it is hurting Bangladesh as well. So the new government under Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for the last more than 10 years now, she's getting into her third consecutive term. She has already got into her third consecutive term as Prime Minister. They have understood this. So Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's foreign policy is friendship towards all, malice towards none. They realize, and the people of Bangladesh realize, that if you try to promote terrorism, it's going to harm you more or as much as it will harm the other country whom we are trying to attack, because terrorism attacks everybody. It bites the hand that feeds it. So this is the way that we are working very earnestly with our neighbors to develop that trust and confidence and show them that this is mutual interest based on mutual respect. The interest is theirs as well as ours. If we're talking about economic ties, it's not as a big brother. It is to give them the development and to give us the development. I think here one important aspect is to develop strong people-to-people links so that the common man also understands this, whether it's a student, whether it's a corporate figure, an academic, whether it's a journalist, they have to also appreciate this. Because otherwise, the language of politicians and the language of journalism is something different, It creates ill will sometimes. But if we maintain our links at all levels, not just at the political level, political level is vital and all important, but beyond that, there are many other levels of developing the relationship. And as we do that, we have been quite successful. I think even in Nepal now, in a spirit of very great maturity and a balanced approach, we are continuing the relationship with Nepal. As I said, our Chief of Army Staff is there now. There have been other visits also. And we are explaining to everybody that there is a mutual interest in having good relations. Don't give in to somebody who is there. And look at this big, border road, Belt and Road Initiative of China. So many countries, including Pakistan. In Pakistan, the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, was supposed to be the, showpiece, the flagship project of the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. But it's in very great difficulties. There are difficulties, as General said, when the China brings their own people to do the work, where is the employment for the local people? When China is charging a very high rate of interest, there's a great deal of indebtedness being built up in Pakistan. We saw in Sri Lanka that the indebtedness meant that Hambantota port has now been taken on lease for 99 years by China. And there is a great deal of dissatisfaction about that among some sections of the population. So this is where we have to base the relationship on our own positive interest and on pointing out what is going wrong with the other aspects. There is a big debate on CPEC within Pakistan. Everybody knows it's not bringing them the results that are desired. Now, this is the point to be stressed and to be emphasized. Now, our Indo-Pacific initiative, it is touching on issues like SLOCs, shipping lanes of communication, freedom of navigation, maritime security. Now, this is not only for India or for Japan, it is for every country en route. It is for Southeast Asian countries, it is for Maldives, and it is for Sri Lanka, it is for Mauritius, it is for East Africa, it is for all the countries. And when these countries appreciate that this is equally important for them and for their economic development and for their stability and prosperity, then they will see the value of it. So this is a constant communication effort. And I think that this is something that we have to put a lot of emphasis on, that we have the right approach, there's no doubt about it, but spreading the message, at universities, for example, through Confucius Institutes, as you mentioned, so many of them, all kinds of wrong messages are being spread, insidious messages. Oh, this is the big brother, this is, India is doing something against your interests and so on. So we have to counter this in a very friendly, positive way by showing we have a huge scholarship program where thousands of students come every year from all the developing countries study. Look after them, give them the right message, appreciate their own countries and what can be done between our countries and their countries. So there is a vast amount of work to be done, but I think that the policy framework, the strategy, the approach has certainly been very refreshing and very important. And I think between the Quad, between the Indo-Pacific Initiative, and between our determination to work for peace, but to strengthen our ability to deter war, we indeed are on the right path ahead.
Right. General Sharma, as Ambassador Sikri just pointed out, India's initiative in the fora of Indian Ocean, especially in Quad and Indo-Pacific ties. Now, there is a strategic investment over there from Indian side. And over there, we are seeing also increased Chinese activity. So do you think that could be a challenge in days to come? And how India diplomatically, or for that matter, in terms of it strategically, deal with that challenge if it comes at all?
Okay, thank you. See, the fact of the matter is that of all countries around us, China has got an atrocious geography. They are bounded by island chains, islands all across from their eastern seaboard, and they have to actually venture out of the break out of the island chain in case they want to do good trade and become a superpower. They wish to. Now, in trying to do so, they have actually expanded their navy so much that nowadays it is said that the navy is surpassed in the number of vessels alone from the United States Navy. So there is a threat being posed by the Chinese in the way they are constructing and improving their navy. They may not have so many aircraft carriers, but they do have as many frigates and destroyers as they have created over time. So there is a threat in being which is going to come up in the Indian Ocean in times to come, because they have channels of the sea lines of communication exist. Also, the Y-shaped project that they've got across in Myanmar, where their trade will start off from Yangon or from Kyak Po and coming down to Mandalay and then going across to Yunnan. The areas of Myanmar coast will be littered with large containers in times to come, both sides of the Andaman Nicobar Islands, from Yangon side and also from the Kyak Po side. So there is a change that is going to occur in the Bay of Bengal times when these axes are through, and Chinese are working hard to produce it. So we have to prepare ourselves. The message being conveyed by this Indo-Pacific formulations, also by the exercises being carried out in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, also by the Quad, all are serious messages being conveyed across to China. And it also helps us to get the interoperability going, because, our equipment largely belongs to Russia. And we need to create interoperability with vessels with the ships of the Australian Navy and the United States Navy and the Japanese Navy. And there are much seamless work to be carried out in this. And all this is a great message being carried out and being well understood. When he says, when the foreign minister goes to Malaysia last week and says that a mini NATO is being created. It's not a mini NATO, but actually they are anxious of the fact that something is happening. That anxiety being created in Chinese mind is an important issue in the whole game plan of ours being carried out. It need not be said that only one ship has come from the United States and one ship from Australia and one ship from Japan. It is that interoperability and the message being conveyed across to China that matters immensely.
Right. Now, Ambassador Sikri, as we near the end of the show, I would like to ask you, and of course with you, Lieutenant General Sharma as well, as we enter the post-COVID pandemic world, what would be the biggest challenges for the diplomacy of ours?
I think, first of all, working together to get over the effects of the pandemic. And I think that right from the very beginning, India has made this and has made it be seen to be as a collective effort. We saw a few months ago, fairly at the start of the pandemic, where Prime Minister Modi had a virtual summit with all the other South Asian leaders to discuss the various aspects of the pandemic and how we can work on it together. And as we have gone along, we have seen how India has put its best foot forward in helping out our neighbors on every aspect of the pandemic, whether it is supply of PPEs or masks or medical equipment or training, every aspect we have not only kept our own needs in mind, but the needs of our neighboring countries and beyond our neighbors also. As I said, in the Indian Ocean and across in Southeast Asia and so on. This has been greatly appreciated. And now, as we are moving ahead to work on the vaccine, at the next stage for ensuring that we are all safe from the pandemic, again, we are reaching out to our neighbors, and I think today's papers have headlines in India and in Bangladesh that there is an agreement now that Bangladesh will get some 30 million doses of the vaccine, and they have signed an agreement with the Serum Institute of India. And so with our other neighbors as well, we are ensuring that they also get, because we realize that pandemics, health crises like this one, they have no boundaries. They move. It's not that they're going to be stopped by some geographical boundary. So we have to have collective security against such challenges. And India has seen this as a collective threat, and we need collective measures to overcome it once and for all. I mean, if India overcomes it and our neighbors are still vulnerable, it's very serious. So we are making sure that this does not happen, and we are moving ahead on cooperation, on technical training, on communication, so that, we should have a complete knowledge of what is happening, where it is spreading, where are the super spreaders, where are the places and all that. So I think we have taken a very collective and mature approach on this, on bringing in our neighbors as part of our effort. This is reflected in our diplomacy. Every discussion, every meeting that has been held between Indian leaders and leaders of our neighbors in other countries, the pandemic has featured very highly. How do we deal with it? How do we overcome it? How do we share the vaccine? And how do we prevent such things from happening in the future? So we have had a very positive approach, and this is going to remain like that. Pandemics, natural disasters is another such thing where we don't know when it's going to happen. So the preparedness has to be collective. So we talk about natural disasters, infrastructure for meeting natural disasters. So all these things we are talking not only with our neighboring countries, but with our big donor countries, IMF, World Bank, with USA, with UK, and many others, all across the spectrum, so that we are able to meet these challenges. These are new aspects of diplomacy that have come up, which are very important, very strong, and very needy for the moment.
Right, ma'am. Right. Thanks, Ambassador Veena Sikri, and thanks, Lieutenant General Sharma. I'm afraid we have to wrap it up here. We should have gone more. So clearly, we have achieved tremendous bits in our Neighborhood First initiative. They've been strategic interests that India has secured. However, there are a few challenges in days to as we know that there are a few challenges in the changed world, and of course, challenges in the post-COVID pandemic world. Thanks for watching Discussion Today with the host, Rajat Kain. Keep watching Rajya Sabha TV for more.